Many of you have been asking me to check this out, and I finally got a chance to see it. And so I have a couple of things to say. This whole controversy, blah, blah, blah. This whole controversy here of this IRS letter that allegedly was sent to Erika Kirk and Donald Trump's possible involvement. You know, I've seen some things in my day, but this one is stranger than fiction. I kid you not. Let's go ahead and bring this in. I finally got a chance to sit down and go through this. It starts out here with wolves and finance. Let me go back just a little bit here, because I want people to see this as we break this down. This is like crazy.
I'm not going to let it bother me. He's allowed to have his own opinion. What he's not allowed to do is argue with the facts. Robert Barnes went on a podcast called Paramount Tactical, and they discussed a letter that was allegedly sent from the IRS to Turning Point.
All right, so that is just kind of the tip of the iceberg as far as the allegations. I know that Wolves and Finances have kind of brought to the fore against TPUSA. And Robert, I know I actually got some of the documents, the letter from the IRS to Erika Kirk and TPUSA that talks about what their situation is as regards to the IRS.
This letter has been floating around and reported on by mainstream news outlets like CBS. Except the letter itself has never been shown until Paramount Tactical's podcast. In fact, I'm guessing he was not supposed to show this to his audience because it is quite shocking. It is a 2-page letter on Department of the Treasury letterhead. It says it is responding to a request from Erika Kirk.
Okay. So the first thing I noticed when I saw this letter, this was very weird to me. It's just like request for return information of. This is in response to your letter of December 3rd, in which you requested certain return information of the 4 tax-exempt entities listed above for which you are chairman, CEO, or president. In particular, you requested the following information: whether the returns filed by these entities are being examined or subject to any other investigation by the IRS, and if so, a description of the nature of any such activity. And we'll go to the other ones as well. One of the things that kind of stood out to me was this letter. I found it strange, and this is not to say it's not real, but I found it strange that the letterhead, it's green. Now, I said to myself, like, maybe that is just light reflecting on it, or maybe it was the way like the image was positioned. I don't know. But the letterhead at the top looks green. And I have never seen documentation from the IRS where the letterhead is green. It's always been black when I've received it. Now, again, this is not to say, I got to say this. This is not to say that it's not real. I just found that strange because I'm not used to seeing that type of letterhead from the IRS. But let's go on.
It says, 1, there is no IRS investigation currently underway on Turning Point. 2, all 4 990 forms were filed by May 15th, 2025. 3, the next year's forms will be filed by May 15th, 2026. The letter is signed by Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Paramount Tactical is presenting this letter as some kind of evidence that there is no fraud at Turning Point. That is ridiculous for a number of reasons. We all know this because all of us deal with the IRS.
And that's what I'm used to seeing. Let me just bring this back for just a second. If I can get it like just right there. I'm sorry, I have to go back here to get it. Sorry.
The letter is signed by Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Paramount Tactical is presenting this letter as some kind of evidence that there is no fraud at Turning Point. That is ridiculous for a number of reasons. We all know this because all of us deal with the IRS.
Right here. So that's what I have seen. Like when the IRS, especially like if you have to do like a payment plan or something like that. I mean, you guys know how these things go. You file taxes, hopefully. But I'm used to seeing it. It's black. It's black and white. I've never seen this green, green letterhead. At least like I've never seen that. So I found that to be kind of weird. But it is what it is.
We all know this is not normal behavior. Have any of you ever received a letter from the IRS saying, just letting you know, we're not doing an investigation on you? No, of course you have not, because the IRS does not do this. And it's not coming from the IRS. The letter is signed by the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent. To me, this looks more like a political favor to Donald Trump's personal friends than a legitimate IRS communication.
That's the other thing. Thank you for this. Measured Man says, Sabby, it has been sent off for a watermark. All letters have watermark. Yeah, that was another thing that was weird to me when he said it was signed by Scott Bessent. That's weird. It's just like, it just doesn't look like a document that came from the IRS. So what the hell is going on here? Let's go on more.
Second, the wording in this letter does not mean anything. Just because the IRS is not investigating does not mean there is no fraud going on. This does not mean that donors cannot sue Turning Point to get their money back. This does not mean that state attorney generals cannot file criminal charges against Turning Point executives. This letter does not disprove my concerns about their finances. And what is this? What is this? At the top of the page, someone has crossed out Mrs. Kirk and wrote in Erika. It looks like
that is sloppy. Again, anybody who was watching, if you ever received written communication from the IRS, what is this? It's like the Temu version of the IRS. Like, I don't know. It's dollar store IRS. When would the IRS do this? When would they just cross out your name and then just write Erika? I'm saying, okay.
Someone is proofreading Scott Bessent's letter. Who could that be? I have reviewed so many White House documents, and in my opinion, that handwriting looks like it was written by Donald Trump. If you compare it to other samples of his writing, he does a consistent method where he writes a name dash, name dash, name dash. The K is very much like this K. The E is written the same way as this W. This handwriting looks like it belongs to Donald Trump.
So is it possible that Donald Trump did this as a favor for Erika Kirk? I mean, guys, this isn't even professional. Like what? And hey, just to let you know, we're not investigating you. What? I don't. So much corruption, you guys.
This letter does not look like it came from the IRS. It looks like it came from the President of the United States. Do you understand what this means? This is the only document the Democrats need to impeach President Trump. This looks like the president's handwriting on official letterhead of him interfering in an IRS investigation of his personal friends.
And there are other reasons that they could use against him to try to impeach him. But I'm pretty sure this one also doesn't help his case. I swear to God, it's stranger than fiction.
Let me remind you of Richard Nixon. Nixon faced impeachment charges for interfering with the FBI investigation into the Watergate scandal. The main evidence was secret tape recordings of conversations in the Oval Office. Donald Trump is doing the same thing with the IRS investigation, but this time we have what looks like his handwriting on official letterhead. It looks like the White House is now part of the cover-up at Turning Point.
And now, things are worse, even worse than we probably thought that they were, right? Because let's think about this for a second. Donald Trump has been known for corruption for quite some time, going far back before he was president of the United States. One of his mentors was a guy named Roy Cohen, who was essentially attached to the mob. And what you have to remember is that during the construction era back in the 70s in New York City, a lot of these people that worked in construction and real estate during that time had ties to the mob. The mob had direct link to construction and real estate during that time. This is also why, and I pointed this out before, this is also why I believe Chuck Schumer doesn't go as hard at Donald Trump as he should, because they go way back. They're old New York dudes. They're old New York guys. Trump probably got some dirt on him, and he probably got some dirt on Trump. I think that's why he don't go that far back. But the corruption has always been there. So honestly, if Donald Trump did do that, it wouldn't surprise me. What is funny is just how sloppy it is. Like, you couldn't even take the time to just rewrite the letter. You scratched out the name and wrote Erika.
Let me give some free accounting advice to Donald Trump. You get this one for free, Donald. Stop writing letters like this. Why isn't he distancing himself from this scandal? I highly doubt that Donald Trump was aware of what Tyler Boyer was doing behind the scenes. But now with this letter, Donald Trump looks like he's getting involved. And I'm saying this as someone who likes Donald Trump, and this letter deeply bothers me. People have a right to be upset about this. Turning Point has been raising millions of dollars from donations. Most people don't know what has been happening with the donations. I received a message from someone named Margaret. Like many other people, she donated money to Turning Point USA because she was moved by Charlie Kirk's death. She was told if she gave a donation that she would receive a hat as part of their fundraising effort. Here's the message. Thank you for your contribution to Turning Point USA with the official Turning Point email address. And it says, shipping of your hat could take up to 10 to 12 weeks. She donated on September 16th.
10 to 12 weeks. Let's go back to that for just a second because
USA because she was moved by Charlie Kirk's death. She was told if she gave a donation that she would receive a hat as part of their fundraising effort. Here's the message. Thank you for your contribution to Turning Point USA with the official Turning Point email address. And it says, shipping of your hat could take up to 10 to 12 weeks.
So, ladies and gentlemen, 10 to 12 weeks is a long time for a company. Like, you're right here in the United States. And it sounds like this customer was here also in the United States. Guys, it doesn't take me 10 to 12 weeks to get a shirt from Shein. It doesn't take me 10 to 12 weeks to get a shirt from Temu. And they're abroad. So why does it take 10 to 12 weeks to get a hat from Turning Point USA? Doesn't that sound ridiculous to you guys? Very bizarre.
She donated on September 16th. 12 weeks would have been the second week in December. Margaret has never received a hat. Instead, she received this card with a rubber bracelet.
So where did the money go? This is where we go. Like, where'd the money go? A card and a rubber where's the hat? I can't. Like, this is so bad. This is so bad. And another thing, the nonprofit status, and this is something that we have to dive into as well. Technically, if you're a nonprofit, and I believe it's the 501c3, you're not supposed to give endorsements, correct? Because from what I understand, if you're a nonprofit, you're not really supposed to give any type of political. I'm a little bit confused because Erika did come out and endorse JD Vance. But are you supposed to be doing that? And if that's the case, how has Turning Point USA been able to do that all this time? I just feel like nonprofit doesn't mean as much as we thought it used to. Like, I feel like nonprofit doesn't mean as much anymore. That's just kind of how I feel. Let's go on more here.
They are sending bracelets to people instead of the hat they promised. And this is not an isolated incident. Here is a Facebook post. Made a $25 donation to TPUSA back in September that was supposed to come with a 47 hat free for making the donation. Never got hat. Tried texting them and calling them several times and have not gotten response. Did get one response from someone named Anika, who said she had no record of the transaction. Have sent them copies of my receipt with no response. Called and left my name and contact info on their voicemail because they never answer the phone and they don't even call you back. Loved Charlie Kirk and watched him religiously, but this has totally disappointed me.
Where's all this money going though? Like they're taking people's money and they're supposed to get a hat, but they're not getting a hat. So they're just asking for donations and getting donations from people. FM said, where's my hat? Yeah, like they're getting donations from people, but they're not even giving them what they were promised to give. Isn't that fraud? Allegedly? I don't understand this. Poorly run. Poorly run.
I'll call my bank and see if I can get reimbursed for the donation. And the replies are full of comments saying the same thing. All I got was a bracelet. We got a bracelet, no hat as promised. Got a cheap rubber band bracelet and no hat. That's a big way to turn people away. Just make false promises. Same thing happened to my husband. No hat. Gave a donation back in September. And it goes on and on and on. People need to realize what Turning Point has been doing to get donations since Charlie Kirk's death. They are lying to people to get their money and then sending them rubber bracelets.
By the way, guys, those rubber bracelets are cheap. I know, because I used to like do this thing like with the Girl Scouts and all that type of stuff. Like we used to like, you know how it is, you know, you sell the cookies and I used to have to sell these candy bars and all this type of stuff. But anyway, those rubber bracelets are really cheap. That's why it's one of the things that people are more willing, organizations are more willing to give out freely because it doesn't cost much. And they're not $25. So it is kind of messed up that people didn't get a hat. Guys, this is stealing. And I just don't understand. Does any of this sound Christian-like to any of you? Does any of this sound like it's a moral thing to do? Not to mention, I still haven't seen it. You guys let me know if you have. I still haven't seen Erika Kirk answer for the fact that she has that pastor on her Make Heaven Crowded tour. And this guy right now is currently under investigation for trafficking. And I just feel like all the people who are attending these events are just like, okay, whatever, I don't care. The hell is wrong with people? I feel like that's the idolism. Ay, ay, ay.
Let's look at the big picture. When someone gives money to Turning Point USA, what do they think they are giving money to? Most people think they're giving money to campus events, like what Charlie Kirk did. He would go to college campuses and answer questions. This is such a good nonprofit idea. Everyone supports that idea. Everyone knows that there is a major problem in the United States with college campuses. We have professors teaching communism and woke ideas in the classroom. How do we fix this? One way is what Charlie Kirk was doing. He was creating spaces on college campuses where students could talk about capitalism and free markets.
Well, wolves in finance, they're not really teaching communism. That's not actual communism for the most part. I need to have a conversation with this guy because I need to explain to people the difference between communism, socialism, and what they actually think is left. Like Gavin Newsom, for example, is not left. And I think people make these terms sound more radical than they actually are. So I need to have a conversation with him about that. But the point that is made here is that something is funny with the money, which I think many of us have been calling out. It just does not make any sense. And I'm hoping that more people will speak up. Like if they gave money, they donated money to Turning Point USA and they were expected to get a hat. I'm hoping more people are willing to speak up about that because that money went somewhere. And those rubber bracelets don't cost $25. Two, a lot of times they buy these things wholesale, so they get them really cheaply. And then two, the IRS thing to me is just really shady. That letter and how sloppy it was and so unprofessional. Like, I feel like we live in a cartoon. Like, I feel like I feel like these things like are not supposed to happen, but they are happening. That's why I say it's like stranger than fiction. It's almost like everything that you see happening right now with Turning Point USA, the money and the text messages, all these things that are being revealed. I honestly feel like this could be an episode of a show, but it's real life. Like it's not even fake. That's the funny part about it. But I also feel as though we have a problem if it is true that Donald Trump intervened there, because what the hell is the president of the United States doing intervening with IRS affairs for a nonprofit organization? Nah, this is straight up mafia style, if that's the case. That's a lot of corruption. And Donald Trump has years of dealing with it. It didn't come out of nowhere. Crazy things, ladies and gentlemen, crazy things. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.